This episode of the Fly Fishing Insider podcast is sponsored in part by Waterworks Lamps and Fly Reels. Looking to upgrade your fly reel? Upgrade to a Waterworks Lamps and Reel today. Try the all-new Waterworks Lamps and Lightspeed F and feel the difference. For more information on Waterworks Lampson, visit waterworkslampson.com. Now let's get back to the show. Hey listeners, it's Greg from the Fly Fishing Insider podcast. I just wanted to go through a bit of housekeeping before we jump into today's episode. So first and foremost, hey, if you have not yet hit subscribe, like, or commented on the podcast, please reach out to wherever you do your podcast. Hit subscribe. That would really help us out. We appreciate it. It gives us the ability to move forward and tells us sort of what we want in our shows, the feedback from you guys, the listeners as well. So definitely, if you could hit subscribe, leave a comment or a rating or a review, we would so appreciate that. So lastly, our lodge program. If you're a lodge and you're listening, this is for you. Our program's proven, it works, it gets you guests, gets you bookings. Reach out to us, ask about our lodge program, see the difference for yourself. We only have a few spaces with that, so if you are a lodge, you're going to want to jump on that sooner rather than later. And lastly, we have a lot of great stuff coming down the pipe for you guys this year, and I can't wait to jump into all that sort of stuff, and lots of great opportunities with the Fly Fishing Insider podcast for the listeners as well. So, but let's jump into today's episode and today's show. Welcome to the Fly Fishing Insider podcast. I'm your host, Greg Keenan. This is season 3 of the Fly Fishing Insider podcast. In this episode, we aim to bring you the biggest and best stories from those who work and make our fly fishing industry truly great. The Fly Fishing Insider podcast dives deep into the past, present, and future of all our guests, uncovering their amazing stories and journey. Join us each week as we interview a new podcast guest. Also, if you're new to the show or not yet a subscriber, make sure you hit subscribe after this episode. Welcome to the Fly Fishing Insider podcast. Today our guest is Brian Chaney. Brian is the CEO of Korkers. Korkers is a foot wading boot and all-terrain traction boot. Here today to tell us more is Brian. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we're excited, man. No worries I'm glad you're here, and I know the listeners are as well. So, my intro was a little rough, but I mean, Korkers, everyone's heard of you guys in the industry and the brand. So I do want to jump into Korkers, but before I do that, I always ask my guests a little bit about themselves regarding their involvement with fly fishing and when it all kind of began for you. So I will ask you the same question.
Sure. Yeah. No, I was lucky to have a father that is into outdoor sports, hunting, fishing, skiing, all sorts of stuff. So I grew up doing all those things, and they've become hobbies and passions of mine as well. So I don't remember exactly when I first picked up a fly rod, but it was probably at age 3 or 4, and I've been doing it ever since. I'm based out of Portland, Oregon, and I have a family and 3 kids, 6-year-old and twins that are 5. So they keep me busy, and the last few years have kind of kept me off the water more than I would like. But I've now got 2 sons that are starting to take up fishing and are into it big time. So we're starting to get out and get back onto the water, and it's been a lot of fun here recently.
I don't envy you, man. I remember those ages with the kids, and you are busy. Plus you're running the brand as well. So definitely, when we talk about Korkers, and I look at it like, there's to start a footwear company, walk me through why you found that niche, or why, how that's all transpired when you sat there and said, I'm going to start a footwear brand company that specializes in wading boots. That's just, yeah. Go ahead.
It's definitely been an interesting journey how I got here, but actually Korkers had been started as a hobby business in Southern Oregon. And actually this last year we celebrated 60 years as a brand. So the brand predates me by quite a ways, and was kind of run mostly as a hobby business for a long time. And it started as an overshoe cleat company, basically putting cleats on over the top of boots. And back in the day when they first started, rubber hip boots were kind of the thing to use when you waded streams. And here in the Northwest, we've got some really slippery, slick streams, and those hip boots were all rubber-based, hard rubber-based, and very slippery. So the founder of Korkers invented basically an overshoe, what looks like an overshoe sandal that would go over the top of your boot. You strap it on, and it had studs on it for better traction on slick rock and rivers. And that's kind of what happened, how it started. And then steelhead fishermen like Frank Moore, who's, for those of you that don't know, is located up on the Umpqua River and has been around a long time. People like that started adopting the overshoe cleats and became popular among fishermen. And I got involved with the brand in 2003 and went to work for a person who had just bought the company. And after 4 years of working for that person, I ended up buying the company with my dad. He helped me out, and we took it from there and have been doing it since 2007. So it's been a lot of fun. We've made a lot of progress. We've updated the product line from just an overshoe traction company to a full line of wading boots, winter boots, cleats for winter, for fishing, for ocean jetty fishing, for rivers, all sorts of stuff. So anywhere there's traction issues, we like to think we have a solution.
Awesome. There's a ton of content in there. So I think I want to get back to the beginning here. So when you bought the brand, who originally owned the brand?
So it was Sherman Smith was the founder of the company and the brand. And like I said, they kind of ran it as a hobby business for quite a while. His son took it over at one point and, kind of made more of a go at it. And they found some successes, not only with fishermen, but also in some of the industrial markets. So providing traction for people that were, out in bad weather and stuff like that, snow, ice. So that was successful. And they also, we've been selling product to people that work up on rooftops. So when they get icy and slick, we make some solutions that work really well for steep pitched surfaces like the rooftops. So that was, and then like I said, the person I went to work for had bought the company. His name was Bob Workman. He bought the company, and this was right around 2003. After working here for several years, we started, when I got here, we started the Interchangeable Soul concept, which was essentially taking the idea of an overshoe and integrating it into a pair of boots or shoes, so that instead of being a separate add-on piece, it was more integrated and worked better in terms of, just streamlining, taking weight out and things of that nature. So that was the first generation of our soul system. And, we had a lot of growing pains and issues. We were, kind of first timers doing business overseas. Most of our products are manufactured overseas, although we do assemble some of them here in the U.S. And that was all challenging and new terrain for the company management. And, we struggled along for a while. And, eventually I saw the opportunity to buy the company and try to move it forward a little bit faster and maybe with a little bit different approach. And that's what happened.
So a couple of things that kind of jump out to me in that statement was Korkers has always been a fly fishing focused brand or like a fishing. I shouldn't narrow it down to fly fishing. A fishing focused brand with its roots in traction and safety in rivers with wading. Correct? Yeah,
I mean it started because people were just slipping and having issues safely navigating Oregon's and the Northwest streams. So for sure, it started as a safety solution essentially for people to use while fishing.
And the other thing that you mentioned, Brian, that jumped out is really cool. And I was going to touch on it later, but since we talked about it, you brought it up, is the interchangeable soles. And I'm wondering, and this is my personal question, if that interchangeable sole and that technology and that idea came to you guys due to, in part with like the felt soles in some states having felt bans, and you're like, hey, why should someone go and buy 2 sets of wading boots when we could just change the soles, or what the need and what because I think it's a great concept as to many other anglers. And I mean, here you are, you guys, you're doing that. Why, how was the reception? Why did that come about? Tell us the backstory, the meat of why you guys said we need to create this product.
Yeah. Well, I think, as an angler, depending on what, if you're fishing rivers or ocean jetties, there's a lot of different kind of surface types that you're on. And to get there and in between, sometimes, you have a better outsole that is better for hiking trails or whatever else. So, when we first started, the 2 outsoles that were most prominent were felt and then a rubber type of solution. And so we saw the opportunity to create soles that not only had felt and rubber, but also studs. And, for a lot of the Northwest streams or, anywhere there's steelheading or fall runs, the rocks, the moss grows on the rocks and they get really slippery. Mm-hmm. So we tend to wear studs, here more so than maybe in other places because our geology of our rocks and our river systems is maybe a little more slick and, wet than some places, like in Southern California or places like that. So the need for different traction is different across the U.S. and into Canada. We actually sell a lot of overshoot cleats and boots to fishermen that are fishing off the jetty shores of the Northeast coast, New Jersey, New York. Those ocean jetties, they swim out to rocks, fish off of the rocks. These guys are pretty insane what they do in terms of how to get to their fishing spots. More crazy than I would probably do, but they get out there. They're on a real slick rock that's been pounded by waves and it's constantly wet, and it's like being on ice. So they really need instead of just felt, they need studs. And for a long time, Korkers has been known for our carbide, gripping soles, a really aggressive traction that you can't really find from other brands.
That's crazy. And I'm just laughing with the guys fishing off a rock. Could you imagine they're posts on Instagram where they're blocking out their rock?
Yeah. They
don't want to.
They go out at night and they fish out at night. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I've never done anything like it, but like I said, we kind of hit all sorts of different fishermen because of the different terrain types, and we actually now make a full series of cleats and boots for ice fishermen. So if you're out on the ice and you need better traction, got insulated waterproof boots now from Korkers with our interchangeable sole for everyday use and then use out on the ice.
Super important. It's I'm sure without challenges. I mean, here you are. You guys designed that boot with the interchangeable soles, and you have three options currently now with the felt, a Vibram sole, like a rubber sole, and then you also have a studded sole, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we make a few different variations of those, but those are the kind of the base models. But some have a little bit more aggressive spikes, others are a little, like kind of micro spikes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we make a variety of different soles for fishing. We actually have a total of 9, and those are all just based on what you want. And some people, we make aluminum bar soles. Some people like our aluminum hex soles, so those are a little bit different than our carbide studs that are a lot harder material, whereas the aluminum's soft but grippy. So just have all the different variations, and our kind of philosophy on that is, we give the consumer the opportunity to kind of tailor the product to what they feel works best. And you'd be surprised at how many people have a preference towards studded felt, or they like Vibram, or they want a more aggressive cleated sole like our triple threat carbide. So everyone with our system can really customize it to their needs and to their fisheries. And then they have the interchangeability to use if they're, traveling different places or, going to different places that require different options.
Yeah, 100%. You guys, and that's what one of the key features that I really respect about your products and your brand is that you've adapted that to really fit everyone's needs. There's no reason, you've covered every basis in that regard. So, but getting back to the, let's talk about not the patent, but the design, to create that boot with the interchangeability. Was there any challenges that you guys faced in doing the R&D on that, or anything that? Because that's go ahead.
It's been challenging because a lot of times the factories that we work with, they want to really they want you to produce a lot of pairs. Like they're used to the Nikes of the world or the Adidas and whatever else who are doing millions and millions of pairs of shoes. So we're still, even though we do a pretty decent business, we're still pretty small potatoes to a lot of our factory partners. So that makes it challenging. And then also our product is really technical. It's much more technical than a running shoe. We've got a lot of interchangeable parts that have to be really precise because if they're, if something's off by a millimeter or two, it can really make the system not work properly. So quality control, making sure that we're really precise on what we're doing and what's coming out of our factories is really important. But yeah, it's definitely. I mean, people that are in the footwear business and have been in the footwear business for a long time kind of really admire what we've done, because it hasn't been, it's not an easy product to make, and that's been good for us because it makes it harder for people to try to copy us or do something similar, because it takes an investment of money, time, and expertise to really make it work.
Absolutely. And it's funny you brought that up about the quality control, because I was going to ask you, with an interchangeable moving product, like you said, if something's off a millimeter or 2 millimeters, like that sole is not going on that boot. And, or potentially, I mean, it's wrong for me to say that, potentially that sole might not fit properly as designed to go on that boot. So keeping the quality is key. And what are some of the ways that you guys are doing that? Like, how are you making sure that your quality and your products are getting out there and you're monitoring that?
Yeah, I mean, we've got multiple kind of checks in terms of the process, but essentially, as we're making the product's on a, basically like kind of an assembly line, and we have multiple people that are checking in along the way as those are getting made. Then we do a quality control check, just kind of a general quality control check where we will randomly, go through let's just say we ordered 1,000 pairs for an order. We'd go through probably 300, 400 pairs just to check for the quality, make sure everything's looking good. So it's kind of post-production. And then when they get here, we oftentimes will go through, a random selection of different sizes and, smaller percentage, usually more like 5 to 10%, and do an additional quality control check. So, multiple checks kind of and balances that go through the process. But, there's stuff that does happen. I mean, there's times where people will call us up and say, hey, because we sell, most of our boots come with 2 sets of outsoles. So you get, for example, a felt sole and a rubber sole. So you get kind of 2 soles in the box. And every time, every once in a while we'll hear, hey, I got my felt soles but in the box, but there was two right sides. I didn't get the left. So, stuff like that can happen.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it gets missed or, whatever else. But for the most part, if we don't catch it, one of our customers usually will catch it, and then we can either, replace their, product or get them the right sole or whatever the case may be. But, that's kind of the nature of the beast when you have a lot of moving parts. So, but, for the most part, we've worked really hard to make sure our quality is high, that our product is durable. We kind of had a reputation earlier on. This is maybe back in the 2010-11 days, where we came out with this new interchangeable system. People really liked it, but the uppers of our boots didn't last as long as some of our competitors. And people were a little disappointed. They said, "God, the boots are super comfortable. They're lightweight. Really great traction, but I only got 100 days out of them or whatever else, and I like to get 200 or whatever else." So we really, over the last 6 to 7 years, we've really made quality, and durability one of our design points, and we've really seen some dramatic improvement in terms of the longevity of the boot and the reliability of the boots. I mean, we're now hearing from guides and people that fish all the time that they're getting 320 plus days out of boots before they have to retire them. So, I mean, we've kind of like doubled up on the durability factor and really seeing some good results from that. And then we also measure in terms of quality control. We have a defective report that we run every month just to track, are we seeing defectives? Are we having issues? And, we are well below about half of what the industry average is for this category.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know some other competitors had a really rough year with the launch of one of their models with massive recalls and whatnot. So I do know that you guys have, since then, though, since that's happened, a lot of fly fishers have taken note and followed and jumped into a pair of Korkers. So with that said, what's the feedback from these fly fishers or fishers that are jumping into your products that are been converted to Korkers now? What are they saying?
Yeah, most of the feedback's really positive. I would say that it's kind of interesting because, you think most people would say, well, I love the interchangeable sole. That's my favorite part. But what we hear more times than not is that we make the most comfortable boots.
That's important.
Really supportive and really, just comfort. And, and they tend to say, I've had X, Y, or Z brand, and after a full day of fishing, my feet were just always killing me, and I moved to Korkers, and it's like night and day how much difference they are in terms of discomfort. So we hear that a lot. That's probably the first thing that we hear. Secondly, we do hear people like the interchangeability. The interchangeability kind of varies in terms of how much of a benefit it is by where you live and where you fish. But for the most part, I live in the Northwest again, and I'm fishing rivers like the Deschutes, where if you're not familiar with the Deschutes, you can fish. You can use boats on the Deschutes, but you can't fish out of a boat on a lot of the sections, at least. So you take a drift boat down, you pull over to the side, and then you get out and wade. And it's really deep, swift water. It's pretty slippery and pretty treacherous. So a lot of times we're using either a boat or a raft, and I like to use my big carbide studs when I can, but when I'm in a raft, a lot of times I'll use my aluminum hex disc soles or something else. Don't want to puncture the raft, stuff like that. So having that interchangeability is really important, kind of depending on where you live and where you fish. But for a lot of the customers, that's what we hear is like, God, I love for the North Umpqua or the Deschutes, I really love using this more aggressive sole, and then the rest of the time I'm using felt or whatever else. So those are some of the things that we're hearing from people. And then the feedback again on the durability is, I'm getting a lot of days out of my boots, more so than I've ever gotten from any other brand. So that's good to hear. I would say the only negative, feedback that we hear, sometimes we have opening price points. So like some of our boots are $110, and then we go up to next year we'll have a $260 boot, but normally those ones on the lower end of the scale in terms of price, they're not going to be as durable. The materials aren't as heavy duty. And sometimes we hear people that get a little confused by that. So they're a guide and they buy the entry level boot from us and, didn't get as many days as they wanted. So sometimes that's a little bit of feedback. So we generally tell them, well, you got to move up to something like more mid to higher level and you're going to see a great improvement. And that's generally always been the case.
Brian, I gotta stop you there because I gotta ask, man. I love your transparency on all that. You're very open and honest on the podcast, saying like, hey, like everyone loves their boots, but here's the one comment that we're getting, and I think that's super cool that you can recognize that you're willing to say that, publicly, in the feedback that you're providing. So it's really cool that you're able to do that. So,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've kind of listened to our consumers and what they like and what they don't like, and that's what guides us, in terms of what we want to design and where we can make improvements and things of that nature. And so, we're far from perfect in terms of with our designs and whatever else. Sometimes stuff works better than other stuff, and we listen to that feedback and listen to what people are saying, and then try to make the product better each season. So. A lot of our boots, we've got one boot that we launched in 2011 that's still in our line. So we don't change things that often if we don't need to, but, always want to keep kind of pushing ahead and making stuff better. And, even successful boots like our White Horse boot, we replaced a couple of years ago with our Dark Horse boot, and, made some material changes and improved the upper structurally and made them a little bit more, bomber and more durable, and we're seeing the results of that, get real positive stuff. So, but your point is, we're listening to our customers, and we always strive to make people happy and like their products, and not all the time we do that, and when we don't, when our product fails or there's an issue, we try to stand behind it with really good customer service and make sure that they're taken care of and they get into something that fits their needs better and works a little bit better for them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, for sure. Brian, another thing too is speaking about listening to people. I take it you guys have like an R&D team or like a pro team or advisors or whatnot for the brand. Is that correct?
Yeah, we don't have an official ambassadors team, but we have a lot of people that we kind of look at it too as ambassadors that are definitely carrying the torch for Korkers. But then we also have a wear testing team that generally are people that are out fishing, a couple hundred days a year or 150 days a year. They may be a guide or maybe just someone that fishes a lot. But we've kind of developed a network of product testers that we know really can put a lot of use on product fast. Because as we're developing a boot, let's say we're trying to make something for next season, we'll usually have a sample ready, sometime in March, and we haven't like March, April, May, about 3 months where we have to have it really hard, wear tested really hard to get the feedback. Because if there's issues, we want to correct those issues and make changes. But we have to kind of be ready to launch the new product in the June, July timeframe. So having people that fish a lot, if we can get people that are fishing every other day or whatever else, and they put 90, there's 90 days of time, they can usually put 45 to 60 days on a pair of boots. That gives us some pretty good feedback, because for most of us, including myself, I'm not getting out 90 days a year, unfortunately. So usually that's a really good way to test and make sure that from an R&D standpoint, things are working the way we want to. And we've had a lot of times where we come out with, we have something that we're really excited about. We send it out to the testers, and stuff wasn't working out as well as we had hoped or wanted it to, and we just had to either pull the plug on it or make it a product for next season so that we had more time to test it. And that's happened a lot of times because we just kind of ran out of time, and that's what happens in this cycle. It's a pretty long development cycle, but the wear testing time is really about 3 months, where we can make a lot of changes and significant updates.
Cool. Yeah, it's good to take that feedback and recognize, hey, it's not working, instead of running with it just to have a new product launch. You guys, you pull the plug on that. So it's definitely cool. Speaking of products,
Brian, learned the hard way. Like,
I bet you.
Sometimes
What's that?
Trying to rush stuff, and every time it kind of bites you in the butt every time you do that. So this last year, we have a new product coming out called the River Ops that we're really excited about. It's going to launch in February of this year. But what was interesting is we built the inside of the boot, the interior, like 2 other models of our boots, and thinking, okay, well, we're not going to have any problems with the inside of these boots because people love these other 2 styles. Well, just because of the way it's made up, people were complaining of a hot spot, of like kind of a rub spot on their ankle inside. And so we were like, geez, well, I don't understand why. It's just the way that boot was made and the way the ankle, the materials wrap around the ankle. We were getting a completely different result from 2 other styles that are built very similarly. So we had to make some internal changes to make sure that wasn't happening, and things were comfortable and whatever else. And we had the time to do it and made all the changes, and the boot is really going to be probably our best boot. I'm really excited about it. Super durable and some innovative technology inside.
We love inside information here. So what else can you tell us about the new River Up boot?
So one of the things that we've noticed over the years is boots tend to wear out where they're stitched together. So because of all the abrasion that's happening, you're underwater, you're scraping against rocks. What tends to break or even rot is stitching. So what we've done in the last few years is we've kind of protected the stitching as much as we could using molded parts, molded pieces, so that stitching isn't exposed. And that's been super helpful in improving our durability. So as we kind of went into this last season or 2, actually, we were thinking of ways, how can we either get rid of stitching altogether or at least protect it so that it's not, exposed in any way. And so we developed, with the River Ops, we developed a 360-degree molded exoskeleton. So it's essentially, there's no exposed stitching on the boot. It's all got a rubberized kind of exoskeleton. If you think about tires and things of that, rubber is generally very good for abrasion resistance. So this boot is very, sturdily built. We wanted to add more structure, more support. So when you pick it up, you can kind of just feel that it's a really bomber boot. But then also this 360-degree exoskeleton makes it super durable. So we've seen, we've had product testers out now for a little over 6 months, and some of these guys are really hard on products. And typically, after 6 months from these guys, we'll see somewhere. A few of these guys have brought their boots back just recently. That the boots look like they've barely been worn. They're just super, super durable. So that's a exciting new boot. It's a lace-up boot, and we did a premium sole package with it. So instead of felt, and our Klingon rubber, which is the standard package for most of our boots. You get a Vibram outsole with felt, or you can get a Vibram. There's two packages. You can get a Vibram sole with a carbide studded Vibram sole. So you get your choice, and the dealers usually choose which one they like to carry. But the Vibram sole is a big upgrade. Really sticky in water and really good on the trail. And being able to, another thing that we don't probably highlight enough, but when people do wear a sole out, whether it be felt or Vibram or whatever else, with Korkers, you can just take the sole off, go buy another one, and put it back onto your shoe. A lot of our competitors talk about resoling the Vibram, but you still have to pay $100 for a kit and then $50 to have someone glue it on there. So we're a lot more affordable way to rejuvenate boots that are a little bit worn or have a tread that needs to be replaced.
100% on that. So just a quick question with the river up. And I got to ask for my own curiosity because I'm just learning about this as well. What's the weight? Like when you said, because you're reducing the stitching, is it a bit more heavy? Yeah. Is it slightly heavier or is it coming in lighter?
It's a little heavier than like our Dark Horse, but not by much. I mean, it's pretty. I can't remember the exact weight in front.
A couple grams or something.
But I would say it's within it's within like a 1/10% of the weight of the other boots, which are considered really lightweight. So because it does have this exoskeleton, kind of over the top of the material, it is a little bit heavier. But we also, when you see it, you'll see that we put most of our boots have a heel counter on them that has the post that holds the sole strap in place. And so on this boot we made an expanded heel counter. So it's quite a bit bigger, and it basically wraps around your ankle and provides extra stability and support. So you'll notice that right away. It's got a really cool heel counter that we put on that wraps around and actually connects to the laces at the front of the boot. So that adds a little bit of weight, but it's pretty lightweight. I mean, overall, it's not bad. It's not our lightest boot, but it's definitely. We kind of designed this for guides, people that really wanted a bomber boot that just would last for season and season. And that's what we're seeing from the results of it so far.
Well, I think you're definitely onto it. I mean, how could you not, right? You're right. It is, the stitching is usually like 98% of the time. That's what I always see fail. So you're 100% right. Couldn't agree more. I'm looking forward to seeing that boot. Definitely. So, I do want to ask tell us about your other boots that are in the lineup. And currently, what's new for 2020? Like, I know we're coming into 21 here very soon, but what's new for 2020?
Well, just kind of starting with our line for this 2020. So we have two boots that are priced right around $200. One's called the Devil's Canyon, and that's been in our line for since 2014. People really, really like it. It's got a unique upper material that's made out of a rubberized canvas. So again, it's got that durability kind of rubber. So from abrasion standpoint, it's going to be super durable, but it's also very flexible. So we made that boot to be very flexible. So if you like a more flexible ankle and be able to articulate your ankles, that's the boot for you. It's got a Boa dial system on it. We really like the Boa system generally here. All the guys in the office generally prefer the Boa. And then we've got kind of the souped up version of that, which we call the Dark Horse. And the only difference between the two boots really is the amount of structure and padding and foam that we put into the boot. So unlike the Devil's Canyon, which is very flexible, the Dark Horse is a little bit more rigid, has a little bit more structure. I mean, it's not stiff by any means, but it's in comparison to the Devil's Canyon, it's going to be a little bit more structurally sound. And for people that have maybe bad ankles or whatever else, they may prefer that over the Devil's Canyon. But super solid boots, both with the Boa system. And those are kind of the upper tier of our current line. And then this year in 2020, we launched a boot called Terror Ridge. And what's unique about that boot is we put a strapping system on that essentially it's a dynamic strapping system. So as you lace the boots up, there's a compression strap that essentially goes over the top of your foot. So as you're lacing it up, you can pull this strap and it cinches your boot you down into the boot, so you get a really snug fit. Super supportive, and that's a traditional lace up with that compression strap system, and that's been I haven't worn it as much myself. I've worn it a couple times, but people really like that compression strap because it pulls you back into the boot and you just have a really nice supportive fit. So that's new for this 2020 year, and it's been very successful. And we did actually, with that boot, we just released a collaboration with Steelhead, which is a popular brand of clothing and apparel here in the Northwest. Probably see their orange fish logo.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the Terra Ridge, but we blacked it out. So we made it really kind of cool and different looking, blacked out all the materials. We added some texture to some of the upper materials, so it looks a little bit different than the standard Terra Ridge. And then we added a Steelhead logo on the side of it. And that's coming also with a unique sole package in that we made a studded felt sole with a rubber sole as the standard package there. So you get the studded felt with that one, where you can't really get that with the rest of our boots in our line. So that's also new. We just launched that about 2 weeks ago. So that's a brand new boot for the market. We only made 700 pairs, I believe, and it's a limited edition. So once they're gone, they're gone. And we launched it right here before the holidays. And that's kind of going gangbusters for us right now. And then on the rest of our line, buckskin and greenback and red side are kind of our mid to lower tier boots. And generally those are going to be really good for people that fish, 10, 12 times a year. Super comfortable, easy to get in and out of, a little less durability out of those styles, but for sure just super comfortable and gives you the traction options and ability to adapt the traction no matter where you're going.
Absolutely. I think, you guys have covered the basis on everything from your entry level boot up to, this new River Up, which is going to be the supreme boot in technology. And as far as I can tell right now, the best boot on the market when it comes out here officially. So really cool. Definitely. Yeah. You're also involved. Go ahead.
We've been kind of different in the fishing space because we kind of think of ourselves more as a footwear company, whereas a lot of our competitors are like more of a wader company or apparel company that also does footwear. So, from the standpoint of all we're thinking about is, how do we make wading boots better? How do we make the wading experience better? Whereas a lot of our competitors are, how do I make these hats more sunproof, or how do I make these waders, not leak or whatever else? They've got a larger product line to manage and to think about, and we're really just focused on boots. And so we do have a fairly wide assortment compared to our competitors, because that's all we do. We don't do the other stuff. So,
and that's cool. That's super cool that you guys, you know what I mean? Because that's why you guys are, and again, leading the pack in that way, right? Because you're putting 100% of your time into 100% of your sole products. So
exactly.
Which is really good. What are some of the ways that you guys are? I'm gonna jump into that later, but I'm gonna ask you. You guys you're also, you mentioned that you're a shoe, not shoe, but you're a boot company, but you're also involved with other footwear and footwear items. What are some of those items just offhand again?
Yeah. So, I didn't really talk about this, but when we were the first to bring Boa, the cable system to the fishing market. And I actually saw the Boa System on a snowboard boot. This is a long time ago.
Yes.
And it was a K2 boot. And I saw the K2 logo on the dial, and I said, "God, that'd be great for a wading boot." But I figured it was K2's technology, and they wouldn't, sell it to us. So I just kind of gave up on it. And then about a year or two years later, I was on a Southwest Airlines flight. In their magazine was a story about the company Boa. So we actually approached Boa and said, hey, we want to make these on a wading boot. And they said, well, we don't really know how our system would work in water because it's never really been tested or used in water. So we actually signed a 3-year exclusive with them to help them develop a system that would work well in the water. And so that's now, that exclusive has ended, and now you can see the Boa system on a variety of different products from our competitors. It's been super popular. But the reason I was bringing it up is we actually just launched a really innovative new series of ice cleats for people that are dealing with snow and ice issues with traction. We developed an innovative line of ice cleats that feature the Boa system as the primary fit mechanism to dial in the fit. So, for people that live up in Canada or the northern tier of the U.S. where they occasionally will get snow and ice, everyone knows about falling and slipping and, landing on their keister, which is no fun. So these are designed for everything from your everyday use to athletes that are winter running and training in high altitude. So we have a series of cleats. There's 3 different styles, a few different colors of each. And actually, we just got Best of Winter Running Outside Magazine's award here just this last month in the Winter's Buyer's Guide. So beyond the fishing and wading boots, we're also making strides with other areas and other categories of footwear.
Cool. I love the diversification on that. So, and I want to jump back really to the Boa system. For those that don't know, like, what are some of the advantages that the Boa system provides to users?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, if you haven't used it, I would highly recommend trying them. A lot of shops now will use like a pair of Korkers as a rental boot or whatever else, and a lot of them choose to use the Boa system. And so if you want to try them and not have to purchase them, but you want to go try them out, you can maybe use a rental boot from one of your local fly fishing shops. But the Boa system is just super convenient. I would say that's number one. The reason we like it the most is you can pop it open. You release the dial by pulling it forward. It releases the cable, and you can pull the tongue and just slip right into the boot. And then you dial the cable. You snap the dial down, and you dial the cable in. As you turn it, it cinches the boot up. And so for me, one thing that I don't like about standard laces is they tend to kind of drag in the water, get wet. Oftentimes they rot because over time they're just getting wet and getting dry, getting wet and getting dry. And that eventually, wears them out and they rot and break. The Boa is actually 49 strands of aircraft grade steel that's bound together and super strong. And what I like about it the most, beyond just getting in and out of them easy, is as you're wading, a lot of times you'll get in the water. Your boots, depending on the material, the material sometimes relaxes. It changes the fit a little bit. So oftentimes you'll come out of the water and go, "Okay, I wish my boot was a little bit tighter." With the Boa system, you can reach down with one hand, tighten the boots back up, versus having to untie them and relace. So I often find myself in the middle of a stream feeling like I want a little bit better ankle support or whatever else as I'm wading across it, and I just reach down with one hand, holding my rod. I might even make a cast and reach down and just one-handed give it a couple cranks and tighten the boot up. And that's what I love the most about it. But like I said, I think before, all the people that work at Korkers, we all really like the Boa system and are big believers in it. Obviously, traditional laces are good as well, but the convenience and the ease of use on the Boa is really outstanding.
Awesome. Definitely. Brian, what's next for you guys, man? I know you got the new boot coming out for the River Rock boot coming out for 21, but you got to have something else, I'm sure, in the pipes or something that you're thinking about.
We've always got ideas in the hopper and, always kind of thinking about ways to improve what we have. And then also, ways to kind of move the entire industry forward. We've played around with some different. We've played around with some different materials beyond felt in the past, and we're looking for some ways to utilize new outsole materials that maybe no one has ever used before. So that's been kind of interesting projects, and we're still working on stuff like that. And then we're also looking at some extensions that take Korkers kind of to a different level in the fishing business. So, I can't let too much out of the bag, but, innovation and pushing things forward is kind of what we think about all the time here. And we've got some stuff that, is probably looking like we'll have it out in the market within the next 2 years that I think is going to get a lot of people excited.
Perfect. We can't wait for sure. So any parting words before I let you go?
No, I appreciate you having me on. And like I said, Korkers works hard to make customers happy. So, anyone that has Korkers and has any feedback, we'd encourage you to go to our website, leave a review. We have a lot of good product reviews. We also have an Instagram page and a Facebook page. So, Korkers.com, you'll see us there. Leave us your feedback. If you have an issue or you're having any problems, whatever, reach out to us. We'd like to help you out. And that's just the way we do business and support, what we make. So, We have a really good customer base, a lot of loyal customers who have really helped us through the years, and looking forward to continuing to innovate and make things better and just continue forward.
Definitely agree with that. So, Brian, I'm going to make sure I put all those details within the show notes so that people can find you and reach out to you guys should they need to, and learn more about Korkers. So, also on that note, Brian, I wanted to thank you for being a guest today on the show, and listeners, I wanted to thank you guys as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun, and love telling the Korkers story. So let's do it again.
You bet. Anytime, buddy. All right. You've been listening to the Fly Fishing Insider podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, tell us by liking this episode and subscribing to the show. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Fly Fishing Insider Podcast. See you next week.